Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on The Rape of Lucrece, which is a very long poem about sexual violence towards women and suicidal ideation. So if either of those is a trigger for you, please tune out right now. If they are not and you want to hear today's stanzas, we're looking at stanzas 189 to 192, where Lucretia has called in her maid because the day is breaking and she needs to sort of get on with her plan. She wants Collatine to know what happened to her so that he knows that she didn't sleep with Sextus Tarquinius intentionally or willingly, and also so that Collatine can avenge her. So she's called in her maid and asked her maid to go get somebody to bring a letter to her husband. And then she sat down and she wrote the letter, which she had a lot of trouble doing because she was trying to put enough of her grief into it that he would know to come back quickly. But she didn't want to talk too much about what she was actually grieving about, because she didn't want him to draw any conclusions before he got home. So she eventually just wrote a very short letter. And yesterday's stanzas was, the end of yesterday's stanzas was talking about sort of that balance of, she doesn't want to give too much away. And stanza 189 picks up by saying, besides, the life and feeling of her passion she hoards to spend when he is by to hear. When sighs and groans and tears may grace the fashion of her disgrace, the better so to clear her from that suspicion which the world might bear her. To shun this blot, she would not blot the letter with words, till action might become them better. To see sad sights moves more than hear them told, for then the eye interprets to the ear the heavy motion that it doth behold. When every part a part of woe doth bear, 'tis but a part of sorrow that we hear. Deep sounds make lesser noise than shallow fords, and sorrow ebbs, being blown with wind of words. Her letter is now sealed, and on it writ, At Ardea to my lord with more than haste. The post attends, and she delivers it, charging the sour-faced groom to hie as fast as lagging fowls before the northern blast. Speed more than speed, but dull and slow she deems. Extremity still urgeth such extremes. The homely villain curtsies to her low, and, blushing on her, with a steadfast eye, receives the scroll, without yea or no, and forth with bashful innocence doth hie. But they whose guilt within their bosoms lie, imagine every eye beholds their blame, for Lucrece thought he blushed to see her shame. So these first two stanzas I'm finding particularly pertinent, especially in today's world, because what it's saying is, like the other half, or expounding on the idea that she doesn't want to give away too much in this letter because she wants him to be able to hear the story directly from her. If he can see how the sorrow is impacting her, how every part of her being is affected by what happened and is grieving and mourning and full of sorrow and regret and all of this stuff, that's much more impactful than if he just reads words on a page. So it's the same as, if you text somebody something, they might read it one way even though you meant it another way, versus if you tell somebody in person or via YouTube, over Zoom, whatever, where you can hear tone of voice and inflection and see facial expressions. It's just a lot more powerful to get a message in person than it is to get it in writing. So those first two stanzas I think are really interesting, and especially still valid in today's world where we run into so many miscommunications because of weird text messages and whatever. But anyway, moving on with The Rape of Lucrece, the third and fourth stanzas, the messenger has arrived and she wrote on the outside of the envelope who it was for, and she gives him the letter and says, go as fast as you can. And he curtsies to her, but he doesn't say anything, and he takes off. And she becomes very self-conscious and feels like he can see what happened to her, which was sort of what she was afraid about of the day. She didn't want the day to dawn because she was afraid that everybody would be able to see it on her, what had happened to her. And that is exactly what's happening. And Shakespeare's going to expound on that idea a little bit more in the next couple stanzas, which we'll get into tomorrow. So I'll see you then. Mwah.